So yeah, we're back again for another Romford Film Festival Q&A for a couple of movies we just saw there, for You Know Me and Anonymous, a feature and a short. First of all, we'll go down the line and you guys can introduce yourselves and let us know what you did on these projects.
Great, yeah, so I'm Alasdair Mackay. I wrote, directed and produced Anonymous.
I'm Karenina Angelique. I was a producer and an actress in Anonymous.
My name's Alice Ryan and I was the producer for You Know Me.
Awesome, awesome. I would like to start with Anonymous here. I'm a huge fan of dialogue-heavy movies, but I always wonder, when you've got a movie like this with guys sitting around in a room and talking and all that, how much improv and how much did you let them go with the script, or were you a bit of a taskmaster and keep them to it?
Maybe you should ask them that one, I don't know. I think it's because of the subject matter. I think there were elements of the script that had to stay as it was scripted. But at the same token, once an actor has created the character, as a director, the most important thing you need to do is kind of let them go with it. So hopefully, I wasn't the taskmaster on the script, but maybe you should answer that one.
I know for myself, I think if you had have wanted it to be word for words, we would have worked to that, but you didn't push any of us to do that. I think, we would have pushed ourselves to that. There was certain, as you develop a character, there's certain lines and phrases that, that must be said exactly like that. And then I think for a lot of script around, I'm really sorry if there's any directors in here that are like, the script has to be done exactly as it is. But I think for me, it so long as I bring the intent correctly, and then it's okay. It still reads, it's still the same, but there'll be certain things where it's like, no, that has to be exactly how it is. Otherwise, it's not the character. It's not the story that needs to be told.
And you have a fantastic collection of characters, very good mix of characters. How did you go about casting for Anonymous?
It was a mixed bag because there's a lot of people I've worked with before, and there was a few where we had to go and cast, but I think even in writing the script, it was really important to represent addiction as something which crosses the class boundary and crosses the race boundary and crosses the sex boundary and crosses so we had to have a really good mix of people in there. So from a casting perspective, obviously that side of it was important, and then after that it was just finding amazing actors that could fit into those brackets, and that's where we got incredibly lucky. All the cast, which is amazing. And
Anonymous does have a strong and powerful meaning, but so does You Know Me.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about how this project came about as the producer of the movie, this short?
Yes, actually it was thanks to the Essex Film Collective. So during lockdown, Lily Streams, Daniel Keeble and Lee Lawrence sort of set up this amazing company, because Lily was sort of finding herself as an actress going into London and meeting people in castings and then realising everyone's from the same place in Essex. So she said, there's such an amazing array of talent in the area, why not get everyone together? And so when everything happened, she was saying, you know what, there are so many creative people. When there is a gap in between all of the stuff that was going on, why don't we all get everyone together to try and create various different films? So we had loads of people submit scripts, and then directors would put their hands up and say, yes, I'd like to take one, and we'll do this one, and so it was a great chance for different people to all get together and work together. So originally there was a slightly different script, and then that director decided that he wanted to try and make it into a bigger film later on. So then we had Ben Treblecook's script, and he sort of helped write Mission Impossible 3 as part of the Die Hard franchise and things. And so that incredible story is actually almost like a love story for his son as he grows up and spends all this time with his son. So the ice cream scene, which is lovely, is what he does with his son. And little did we know at the time, but quite a few people who came on board had been affected by the story. My boyfriend's granddad had dementia and during lockdown was put in a home, and there was a point where his dad and aunt had to make the decision who's going to say goodbye to him because of what was happening. So it was incredibly powerful, and Darren really wanted to make sure that it was an incredibly heartfelt piece. So Ben's original script had a bit more action at the beginning and a bit more of a bigger twist. And he said, you know what, I know David and I know Harry, and I think they can bring something really nuanced to this. And so that's how we got a beautiful piece like You Know Me.
It's a great piece. It's a great piece, and seeing it up on the screen as well, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, Henry Keep did a wonderful job, and Daniel Keeble was on set for that one as well. Beautiful job. Yeah,
definitely,
very lucky.
definitely. When you're dealing with a story like that, and I guess this is for everyone, what was kind of your proudest moment when you're putting these projects together and you finally see the fruition of it? What was the proudest moment for you guys?
That's a wrap. I think that's the proudest moment when you've still got months of sitting in dark rooms editing the thing, but at least you know you've got the pieces. I think probably.
I mean, can I choose two? Is that?
Yeah. It's your Q&A.
On actual set, I think, I mean, pre-set, there was character development and all the rest of it. And then on set, in the actual story, we were lucky enough that because it was one location, we were able to film it in chronological order. So the story is developing as you do it, which you don't usually get on a film. But what I was able to do for my character, which is subtle, and I don't know that you as an audience will have picked it up, and if I'll never get to do a Q&A with everyone who ever watches the film, but for me, when Peter comes back, because the steps are all about forgiveness and trying to forgive those that have harmed you. And for my character, she's holding on to all this resentment and this hurt to her stepfather that abused her mother. And then it happens right in front of her. And, for her, she's not perfect. She shouldn't be coming on to the dude at the end. That's not, but she's able to go, you know what? If this guy is able to make the decision to come back even after doing something we all know is wrong, but he's made the decision to come back and ask for forgiveness. Maybe somewhere out there, my stepfather's coming to a meeting like this and asking for forgiveness as well, and maybe I can forgive him in that moment. So I was able to give her a little bit of peace in that moment, even though she doesn't actually exist, but she was able to get that little bit of peace and forgiveness because if this guy can do it, maybe he could have done it as well. And yeah, but and I think the second one is when we first did the premiere of it in November at London Rocks Festival. We were able to get one of a sobriety influencer who's been it took some convincing to get him there in the first place, to be fair, but to have him at the end of it say, that's really hit me, that's, because we've been working so hard on being part of the sobriety community, and to have him say, that's really hit me, that's really affected me, I really enjoyed, well, not enjoyed, nobody's enjoying that film, but being convicted by that film, that really meant a lot to that we've created something that they feel they can be proud of as well.
Gosh, yeah, it's difficult to pick just one, isn't it? I think when we have been able to screen it and we finally got everyone back together after everything that was happening and had our first screening, and just the way that it touched people afterwards, and so many people have said to us, that's what my family went through during lockdown, or that's what I've experienced because of the care that had to take place for a family member. So I think knowing that we got it just right has made me so proud, and I was so lucky to be working with so many different people that I've never met before, and it's always risky when you turn up on set and I've not met these people before, and they were absolutely brilliant. The cast and crew were fantastic. So
with that in mind, and you need to get it right because it is such a sensitive subject on both movies, what was the influence for you guys? Was there anything you looked to or any research you did to get this?
Lots. First of all, the inspiration for the whole piece was about a week or something into lockdown, and Karenina and I were in a corner shop, and we were just in there getting whatever, milk or something, and there was a bloke in there, and he had a basket, and he was filling it up with spirits and cans of beer and stuff, and he had this smile on his face, and I thought, that's what lockdown is for this guy. That's what not having to go to work and be accountable to a commute or an office is to this guy. And that made me think, I already had, from my own experiences, sort of the idea of making a film about this in my head, but I thought, what we're about to go through, and I didn't know how long it was going to last, by the way, at that point, but what we're about to go through, I knew that people would come out of lockdown on the other side with addictions that they didn't have before. And I thought, this is the time to make the film. And then I used to run a Bible study group on a Thursday, and one of the guys that used to come to that was a recovering cocaine addict. So I sort of knew that. So I immediately sort of went into him and had a lot of conversations with him about his experiences, and he was really gracious and welcoming to me and open to the idea of me stepping into that world. And then there was a lot of research then into what AA meetings look like and recovery meetings look like, and in a weird way, Anonymous, the way it's portrayed, doesn't actually look like one specific AA meeting. I wanted to take elements of all different recovery meetings. So it doesn't actually look like that in real life, but there's versions of every type of meeting in that film.
Yeah, I think for these kinds of subjects you have to do the research, don't you? And you have to. So we ended up doing that as well, because I think a lot of people assume with dementia and Alzheimer's it's just going to hit you when you're 80 or 90. And it doesn't actually. It can affect people as young as 25, 30. So with David being slightly younger, I insisted that we all looked into how he would be, so it wouldn't just be a stereotype. I didn't want that at all, and I'm sure you wouldn't want the same for your film. So I think it is very important to do that kind of research, and we all did that.
Awesome. I'm going to start opening up to the Q&A, get some questions from the audience, because I think these two films will have stirred some emotions. So let's see what we can get. Any hands?
Question for Alasdair, if I may.
Yes?
The lead guy didn't have to spend too long learning his lines. Could you talk about the silent protagonist for us?
Yeah, so there's a couple of layers to that. First of all, addiction is a silent killer, and obviously the twist at the end with the fact that he's got the bloody shoes in the bag and all the rest of it. So that was sort of meant to be a nod to addiction being the silent killer. But there was also the nerdy filmmaker in me that wanted to see if I could take a lead all the way through a film without verbalising anything, but still engaging emotionally with everybody he was encountering. And I wanted to see if I could put it up, to be totally honest. So there's two sides to it, yeah.
What was your trickiest budgetary constraints when you were filming? And that's for everyone.
Wow. It's a good question, actually. I mean, the whole budget sort of comes together as one. I think with any film, you always want to put more into production design, and there's a lot of work goes into sort of wanting to control that and wrestle with that side of it, props, costumes, and all that stuff. But because you kind of want to overspend, but you know you can't. So I'd say that was the trickiest in that respect. But the whole thing has to come together as one overall budget.
I don't know how many budding filmmakers there are out there, but if you want people to actually physically see your film, that's where most of your money is going. I would probably go half on the actual production, that all the stuff that you actually physically learn at film school, and then half on marketing and distribution and getting an aggregate and getting a sales agent and getting all of that, because we didn't budget for that. And so that's all monthly budgeting out of my own salary.
I couldn't agree more. For our one, because it was sort of a creative collective during a tough time, we all sort of took time out of our lives to create it. So for us, the main budget, I think, went on catering, which is very important. Again, filmmakers, please feed everyone when they're doing long hours. Horror stories of actors turning up to set and being offered a bag of crisps after a 12-hour shoot. So for us, it was food. And the ice creams as well. David went through about 4 ice creams, and Harry was very good and only had the 1. So yeah.
If you're doing another film, we can recommend someone.
Yeah.
She was amazing and so cheap.
Brilliant.
If you were on our film set, how good was our catering?
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's excellent energy as well.
It's funny how many filmmakers have said that this week when that's come up, the cake and the food and all that.
Gotta have that energy to keep going.
Definitely. Do we have any more hands?
This is a question for both of you. Doing the research you were doing, how did that change drafts of scripts, characters, and I guess the intention that you might have initially had when you first started to write?
For us, because it was a script from someone else, the original version was quite different. So Ben had written something, as I said at the beginning, something more actiony, and then the twist is who this character is and the fact that he has dementia or Alzheimer's. So Darren took the script and actually said, well, again, I know the actors, I know how good they are, can we try and make this a little bit more heartfelt? And then alongside that, I was saying, well, we also need to do this research to make sure we get this right, the right representation. So then we ended up talking to friends and family members and connections with Alzheimer's research, where my other half is raising money for them at the moment, doing a Himalayan trek. So we ended up sort of then changing it again to make sure that we had things like the music in it. So Harry is playing the guitar, very good guitarist, and that beautiful piece of music. And not a lot of people know that music does really help dementia patients and actually can calm them and can help them connect. So the guitar and the music was very important. Emily was a fantastic composer for our piece, and Darren has said from the beginning he really thought that the music needs to be very important for it, so that's how ours changed.
Yeah, and the music thing, that really hit home for me as well. That's really, yeah.
Thank you.
So my writing process is a little bit different perhaps, in that I don't actually start writing the script until I've done all my research, all my character development. I'll spend way too long, if you like, on that. And then I'll only start actually writing the script until it's already sitting in me. And I'm quite strict with myself. If I start writing it and then I go, it's not there yet, I'll put it down and I'll do more research. So actually, in terms of drafts, Anonymous had 2 drafts. And the second draft was really just little corrections after the first table read. And then that's pretty much what you see. Wow. So we've still got a few more of these, a few more festivals coming up. Obviously we're going to have conversations about distribution and things like that, which Karenina has been handling brilliantly. And then in terms of other projects, we're possibly, without wanting to say too much, moving into a second season of a completely different comedy series that I did a first season of a few years ago. So there might be a second season of that coming up. And then lots of other little bits. Irons in the fire, I'll just say that.
Yeah, as a producer, lots and lots to the end of the year, which is lovely. Essex Film Collective are growing rapidly, which is wonderful, and it was a collaboration with Ark Indie Productions. See What She Did featured on Sunday, which went down very well, thank you very much. And we're focusing on our next feature, and then for me it's just working with even more incredible creatives, working on a comedy series at the moment, and then I've got some more pieces for Thurrock Council and lots of creative bits and pieces before the end of the year. So, thank you.
And yourself in the middle?
Yeah, like Al said, I'm working on the marketing and distribution for Anonymous, and also Night Watchman, which is our comedy series, looking to get funding for the second season and get that named actor that we all need and all of that, so that it actually gets taken up by things. And also possibly a documentary about the Winter Paralympics coming up. So yeah, so a few different things, but you know, irons in the fire sometimes turn into just hot coals, really. So we'll see if it all turns out.
We will see, but in the meantime, thank you so much for bringing the short and for bringing the feature to the festival, submitting and letting us show it on the massive screen, because they were both superb. So can we get a quick little round of applause?